channel, everybody. Today, I got all kinds of news to tell you guys. So first things first, we're gonna do some tests here in a minute on startup, and the reason we're doing that is I'm changing the injector phase angle, or the angle in which the injector fires. I believe that that's got a lot to do with my fueling problems. So I'll cover that in a minute, but first you're gonna hear a bunch of background noise, cars driving by and all that stuff. I live on a busy street and it just seems to be unusually busy today. So let's see, what else? Oh, dyno results. So dyno went a lot better this time. I didn't take the camera on purpose because I wanted to be able to concentrate on what I was doing and not chase the camera around and all that. But my buddy Brian was there and he got some of it with my phone. So the problems that you're gonna see are, well, it doesn't really hook up real good on the dyno. So the first pull that I'm gonna show you is on 8 pounds of boost. Now pay special attention to the back tire. It doesn't really smoke or anything, but if you look at the roller, you'll see it leaving a black streak on the roller, and as soon as I let off the gas, the black streak goes away. The next pull that I'm going to show you is the same thing, but we put 4 pounds of air pressure on top of the wastegate. Now, normally that would only add about 4 pounds of boost. So we would see 12, 13, 14 pounds, you know, something like that. In this case, when we plugged the air in and I adjusted the regulator to 4 pounds, I heard a click, and it wasn't really apparent what it was until after I made the pull, because on that pull it went to 28 pounds of boost. I was okay with that because we had been on the dyno for a while and wasted a lot of time and blah blah blah. But apparently what happened was the click that I heard was the wastegate shutting, and it never opened again. One of them, apparently. I don't know. Well, we may get to that in this video too. So anyways, here it is. Check out the first video, 8 pounds of boost. Next pull, 28 pounds of boost. Okay, so now that you've seen those two pulls, I'll explain a little bit of the problem that we had at the dyno, and it's my own fault, of course. First things first was it took a little more VE than I expected it to in order to get fuel in the motor, but it was a far cry better than it was the last time we went to the dyno. Now, part of that problem was the injector phase angle that I mentioned in the opening of the video. The other part of that is the cam sensor that I think you can see it here in the shot, right under the throttle body here. The cam sensor was showing a cam fault, and it's kind of weird because it didn't before, and I don't remember that it did before, but we ended up having to add a pull-up resistor to it, which it didn't have before, and it didn't show the cam fault. I'm still baffled about that, but we hooked the oscilloscope up to it, got it figured out, got it showing the cam signal in the composite logger like it should have. Then it still had a cam fault. Got to thinking about it, and then before you know it, yours truly once again screwed it up, and I was phasing it in incorrectly. So it was the cam sync signal was coming in out of range, or not in a range where the ECU expected to see it. So that's fixed, cam fault gone, blah blah blah. Now I didn't mess with the injector phase angle at all during this point, and the pulls that you saw were without a cam sync, so it's either in semi-sequential or batch fire. I don't know which it defaults to, but it's one of those two. In any event, the fueling wasn't really good. It was okay, but it still had a little lean spot at the top. So this is where the next problem comes in. Okay, so last but not least, now we're ready to cover the injector phase angle. So the biggest part of that is that you want the fuel to squirt or to come out of the injector and be done coming out of the injector by the time the intake valve starts to open. Mine was nowhere near that, and we had a weird problem where every once in a while it would backfire when you start the car. Come to find out, that's what it is. So I'm gonna cut to this video real quick and show you the difference in how the car starts with the bad phase angle and with the good phase angle. So first things first, let's start it just how it's always been. Time for one more quick test. Now it's good and hot, and with the new injector phase angle in it, I want to start it hot and see how much better it does. Okay, so we got all that stuff addressed and we are ready to move on to the next part. We're going to try to find out why on the dyno it went to 28 pounds of boost with only 4 pounds of air pressure on top of the wastegate. That should have, I think I mentioned it earlier, it should have only been 12, 14 pounds of boost, and it wasn't. So I've already done one of the wastegates, took it apart, cleaned it up, and these are the cheap eBay tile Chinese knockoffs. And the second wastegate, the one that I'm getting ready to show you, the diaphragm looks weird in it. So this is what I was talking about. The diaphragm doesn't look like it was seated correctly, and it looks like it's kind of rolled funny as well. And I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I'm going to try to put it back together and test it out and see if we can figure out exactly what happened here. Okay, so we start out by putting a pretty fair dab of anti-seize on the top of this thing when we start putting it together. I just take that stuff and I smear it around on the top, and the reason I keep it to the top of the stem is because you're going to put that valve in the bottom of the wastegate, and it's going to drag that anti-seize all the way down the stem like that, and you can see it lays it out perfect right there. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and continue putting it back together, but we're going to pay extra attention to getting that diaphragm seated in this groove right here, which, like I said, I really think that was the problem. So we'll try that out right now. Okay, so I didn't have it on camera, but if you look right here, what ended up being the problem is this guy was, let's see if I can show you, was rolled over like that, and it was stuck to itself. So this wastegate, or this one wastegate out of the two, didn't have anywhere near the travel that the other one did. So now you can see that the diaphragm is pretty much, there you can see the wrinkle in it right there. The diaphragm is now pretty much back to the shape it's supposed to be. So I'm going to try to assemble this thing, and then we'll test it out with some air. I'll move the camera over here so I can show you this wastegate now that I've got it back together. The diaphragm appears to have been the problem. I think what was happening is the way the lip of that diaphragm was rolled over, it took a lot of the travel away from the valve, and therefore it couldn't bleed off the exhaust. So I'll grab the camera and move over here so you can see how this thing works now. I got it lightly clamped in the vise, and I just use this tap handle so I can push on the valve. But it moves all the way to the point in which it bottoms out. So that's exactly what we were after. So now I guess we can get them put back on the car and see how it works. Okay, so I decided to forego the actual air test on the top of the wastegate because I'm 99.97% sure that the wastegates are okay now. So they're actually already back on the car. So we got to go to the dyno. We learned even more. The car's not 100% yet, but it's really close. So I think I'm going to forego any more dyno adventures and focus on getting the car track ready to the point where we can actually race it. I want to get some passes in before the winter time gets here, because I actually have some other upgrades in mind. So having said all that, that is the end of the video. If you've made it this far, thanks a million for watching the whole thing. I certainly do appreciate it. Be sure to give it a thumbs up, share, like, subscribe, comment down below, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.